about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So every year, sadly, we hear of these outbreaks of Legionnaires. And apparently there's a disease cluster going on in New York City. We are being told by ABC News that 3 have died and 67 are currently sick. Although I thought I saw another report where the number's over 70 who have been diagnosed with Legionnaires. Apparently, this started in the Harlem area of New York City last week. ABC News is saying the New York City Health Department announced the cluster of cases last week. At the time, 1 person had died and 22 were sick. The cases are clustered in 5 zip codes in central Harlem, according to the health department. And they say people living or working in the area with flu-like symptoms like cough, fever, chills, muscle aches, difficulty breathing, need to contact a healthcare provider immediately. It is especially important for people at higher risk, especially those over age 50, cigarette smokers, those with chronic lung disease or compromised immune systems, to get care if they have symptoms. So Legionnaire's disease can cause a very serious pneumonia caused by the bacteria Legionella. And Legionella, oftentimes people get from exposure to warm water. This is why we see Legionnaires oftentimes in warmer months, or we see it in terms of exposures in hotels, showers, when people take warm showers. Now, according to the latest health department update, they say this is not an issue with any building's plumbing system. They say residents in these zip codes can continue to drink water, bathe, shower, cook, and use your air conditioner. So the New York City Health Department said they are investigating this, and the remediation required by the department has been completed for the 11 cooling towers. And they say initial positive screening results showing the presence of Legionella pneumophilia, which is a type of bacteria that causes the Legionnaire's disease. Now, Legionnaire's disease can be caused by plumbing systems if the conditions are hospitable to this bacteria growth. Cooling towers, whirlpools, spas, hot tubs, humidifiers, hot water tanks, evaporative condensers of large air conditioning systems, according to health officials. And so when you breathe in the water vapor that contains the Legionella bacteria, you could then get exposed. We don't see Legionella spread from person to person as much as others. Usually you get it because you inhaled it yourself. Where this name came from was the one of the initial outbreaks, which it was named after, was at the Pennsylvania American Legion Convention held at the Bellevue Stratford Hotel in Philly back in July of 1976. They believe that caused a pretty large outbreak, and it later got the name Legion for the Legion Convention, American Legion, Legionnaire's disease. But it's a bacteria that is found in soil, grows in water, and as we said, we see it in water systems, rivers, storage tanks, air conditioning units. So we don't have any detail yet as of who died. We also you'll hear the term Pontiac fever. Pontiac fever is a milder illness of Legionnaires. Untreated Legionnaires, however, can kill. Fortunately, we have antibiotics. It's a bacteria. We do have antibiotics that can address it, which is why as soon as you detect any symptoms, we want to make sure you get checked out. So what are the symptoms of Legionnaires? Well, it often starts 2 to 10 days after contact, according to Mayo Clinic. You might start feeling headache, muscle aches. You might have a fever that's over 104. Even if you have a mild fever, that could still be Legionnaire. So don't say, oh, my fever is only 103.9, I'm good. A fever could, of any level, still suggest. By the second or third day, you might start seeing cough. You might see some blood in your mucus. Anytime you see blood in your mucus, do not call telemedicine. Get yourself seen right away. All right, we have got to make sure that this isn't a pneumonia, like a Legionnaire's pneumonia, a tuberculosis, or malignancy. but you sometimes might cough up blood, sometimes you don't. Legionnaires disease can also cause shortness of breath, chest pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. As you get more ill, you can become confused, have mental changes, become hypoxic. So it's definitely a serious illness. The milder form, Pontiac fever, we build excitement. Pontiac? Sorry. That can cause fever, chills, headache, muscle aches. Pontiac fever, interestingly, doesn't necessarily infect the lungs. Many people resolve within a week. That's not for you to decide if you have Pontiac or Legionnaire's disease. All right. If at all you're not feeling well, or you are told that you stayed in a hotel or you were in an apartment or a facility where other people might have gotten it, get yourself checked out. So, this bacteria, Legionella pneumophilia, like I said, it lives in soil and water, and we don't usually see people get sick from those. So my guess is what's happening is it's these big, shall we say, concentrated doses of exposure. So when you do have this bacteria grow, such as like in a shower, I have recommended that you let the shower run a few minutes. Open the door, let the steam out. So how I usually shower is I get the water really hot, and then the door closes. I like the steam, and then I go in, and I love having the steam to open up my lungs, etc. But if you're at risk for Legionnaires, if Legionnaires or Legionella bacteria is in the water system, now you're going to get a big dose or a big aliquot of it. So one recommendation I would then make is if you do start a shower at a foreign place, not necessarily foreign versus domestic, but in a shower that's not your own or not vetted, let it run, doors open, etc. Then go into the shower. You could close the door, and then hopefully that might minimize a little bit of that early exposure to it. But hot tubs, sinks can do it as well. Fountains, birthing pools, drinking water systems. Let things run. And that would be my recommendation. Of course, if you smoke, stop smoking. If you have an weakened immune system, make sure to contact your medical provider. Or even if you don't have an weakened immune system with those symptoms. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So I remember years ago, and again recently, listeners have asked if we do too much in the obstetrical world with delivering babies, if women have been delivering babies since the dawn of time, and we have issues with children now, such as rising autism, chronic disease. Is there an argument that what we do in the prenatal, obstetrical, maternal, fetal world could be too much? Now, I've delivered babies, and in my training, one of my favorite things to do. It was so much fun. It was so rewarding. And my response to that is even though, yes, we have been able to give birth, we see animals give birth, we see, it's something that is in our genetic nature and in our species evolution. It's something we could do. We humans are a little different than how we were in caveman days. And we have 35-year-old moms, 42-year-old moms giving birth. Not as it was back in caveman days, where once kids were pubertal, they were already mating and starting their family. And having delivered, women of multiple ages, it gets more difficult the older somebody is. I told you, one time I heard screaming, "Mommy, mommy, mommy," in one of the OB rooms. I was in the nurse's station. I was monitoring the monitors of all the women that were in labor, saying, I think this one's about to go. I'm going to go in there and check on them because they had just newly gotten in there, and somebody's got to deal with the kid. We got a kid in there screaming, so I need someone to deal with the kid so I could deliver mom. And I walk into the room, and mom is sitting in a chair by a bed, and the patient is an 11-year-old girl holding a teddy bear. And the mom is looking scared to death, and the 11-year-old was scared to death because she was in labor. Now, we made it as easy as possible. In fact, that was the fastest delivery I ever had. And from what we were told, it wasn't a rape. It was her boyfriend. And I guess the family was going to take on the baby. But an 11-year-old, I delivered a mom who was 11 years old. But the delivery was fast. Now, I'm not saying that is not anything we advocate for. But in modern day, the average woman now starting her family is late 20s, early 30s. And there could be some complications the older you are, the heavier you are. If you have high blood pressure, insulin resistance, if the baby was not eating nuts and berries and fish and a healthier diet, but we were snacking on junk food, the baby could be enlarged has macrosomia, could have oligohydramnios, low fluid. There could be a lot of issues going on. And so we have a different species now than we did back in the olden days. And we don't want people to die of childbirth like they did in the olden days as well. So I am a huge proponent of us having medical intervention. That being said, do we sometimes do too much? Hard to say. Don't quote me on this, but what we've been able to do in terms of stopping preterm labor is amazing. The medications we could implement and make sure, and try to slow down and let that baby cook or bake for as long as possible. But one of my training physicians, my attendings, was an old farm doc. And he was family medicine and one of the best doctors in the world, Dr. Donald Wicker. And I started to feel some preterm labor with myself. I was like, oh, no, are you kidding me? I was in my second trimester and I was starting to contract. So I call him up to say, look, I think I want you to meet me at the hospital. I think I'm going into preterm labor. He said, before you get tributaline and magnesium and all the things they're going to give you, the steroids, etc., I want you to do one thing. I want you to open up a glass of wine, have some wine, and see if the contractions stop. And I'm like, I can't have wine. You're not supposed to have wine. You're not supposed to have alcohol. That's a big no-no. He said, do it. Well, I don't have wine. I'm not a wine drinker. So the only alcohol I could find is one of my husband's wine cooler. He hates me telling the story because, you know, the wine coolers. But yeah, he's a dude. I also think he likes Zima, but don't say anything too. I like Zima, but that's okay. All right. Well, that's why we're compatible. So there was a wine cooler. So I drank a half a wine, not even a half, a third of a wine cooler because I was scared to death. And the contractions stopped. So I called back Dr. Wicker, and he said, if they start again, let me know. He goes, how much did you drink? I go, I only drank a third. And he's like, I don't think that's going to be enough. I go, I just don't want to drink alcohol. He goes, do you want to go to the hospital and get these medications in you? And I go, if it's to protect the baby. He said, call me back if you get any more contractions. And I didn't. Now, his thinking, which has been now rebuked, was the old school treatment for preterm labor where we would give alcohol to stop preterm labor. We don't do that because alcohol could hurt the baby. But when you hear of these stories or these cases where somebody talks to an old school doc and something in their house was able to prevent them from needing to have expensive medical care, it does beg the question, when can we do something simple and when can't we? Well, you have to get the lawyers on board with that one. Now, if there are studies saying resveratrol or something in wine can help with preterm labor, how do you protect against fetal alcohol syndrome? How do you protect against somebody drinking and it raising their blood pressure or increasing their sugar? And then there's liability there. So what we do is tried and true medicine that we know is safe, that gives the baby the best possible outcomes. But oftentimes, that is a lot more medical intervention that we would have done earlier. But here's the argument to make the case to have medical intervention. Apparently, there is a huge campaign for free births where people give birth at home in a birthing pool and completely avoid medical care. Well, a newborn baby girl is dead as a result of that. There's an influencer, Daily Mail is saying, named Emily Lai from Melbourne. And she makes content that opposes medical intervention during pregnancy known as free births. She offers rentals for birthing pools. Now, I don't know what the hell sort of medical credentials she has, but she's disillusioned with the medical system. She's disillusioned with midwives who say they are complicit in and contributing to the harm of women, which I disagree with. I love midwives. But she apparently now is being named in a report because a baby we're calling baby E has died. The mom of this baby did not seek regular help during pregnancy. She might have had one visit to a GP when she was 36 weeks pregnant, but she decided to follow Miss Lal, engage with her directly, who is known as the authentic birth keeper, rented one of her birthing pools, and only texted this influencer. She ends up giving birth the evening of December 28th in 2022. Text her saying, I did it. The problem is she did not deliver the placenta until the following morning, the third stage of birth, of labor. Then she became concerned that the baby was suffering complications. She decides to text the influencer again, saying, we can't wake her. We aren't sure if she's breathing. And the newborn is now blue in the face, and she submits a picture. Paramedics finally are called, but the child died the morning of December 29th. According to an autopsy report, the cause of death was neonatal pneumonia, meconium aspiration. Meconium is the stool that the baby may make during distress or during early birth. Chorioamnionitis, which is inflammation of the fluid around, and then secondary to prolonged labor in a home birthing pool. If this birth occurred in a hospital and if the mom had proper prenatal care, the baby could be alive. And not to mention, even if there was hypoxia or issues with the baby early on, the hospital and the neonatal unit could have helped revive the baby. This is scary. So I will always be on the side of having the medical community involved. Home births, if your medical team is there, I leave that up to you and your medical team, but I prefer you being in a hospital setting because you never know what could go wrong. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So many of you have been really disappointed in these GLP-1 agonist shots. You're hearing your neighbors and friends are getting their insurance to cover their Ozempic or Wegovy, Zepbound, Mounjaro, and they are acting like they are bikini ready for the beach. And you don't seem to share their same enthusiasm. One is you might not be getting the medication. Your insurance won't cover it. Or if they do cover it, you still have to come out of pocket for $500. Even though I think Eli Lilly has offered, or Novo Nordisk has offered you to be able to get a cash price for $500 a month, still, that's ridiculously expensive. Or you're on it, you're taking the shots, you're spending the money, you still don't look like you're ready for a bathing suit. And what a lot of people are telling me is it's not working anymore. It controlled their hunger, it controlled their cravings, but they stopped losing weight. We need something else. Well, Eli Lilly is already working on something else. And I told you guys, I go, look, these medications are fantastic for those with diabetes and may have a lot of applications to get people off alcohol, to temporarily work with people on their cravings, but we just don't have enough long-term data where we think you're going to lose all the weight, keep the weight off, and never rebound. We can't say that yet. We do notice people lose weight in the short term, absolutely. But how to keep it off if you can't get the medication? Well, Eli Lilly is reporting that they have a pill that causes people who do have obesity or are overweight to lose significant amounts of weight. And it's a pill. The drug is called orforglipron. And it's not an injectable drug like their tirzepatide. Tirzepatide targets two hormones, your GLP-1 and your GIP. Your orforglipron targets just the GLP-1. Lilly and other companies make similar medications, that have been trying to mimic the efficacy of these shots. And some people don't like to do the injections. You also have to buy alcohol pads. You have to purchase needles if you don't have enough. You know, the pens come with enough needles, but some people are microdosing or they're playing around with it or they drop the needle. And so many individuals just want to go back to old school and they want just a pill. So according to Time magazine, the trial included 3,100 overweight or obese adults who had an obesity-related medical problem but not diabetes. Those taking the pill daily for almost a year and a half lost 10% of their body weight on average, or 27 pounds. People taking a placebo lost just over 2 pounds. I got to tell you, I love hearing how people are losing weight on placebo. Can I just buy the placebo? It's got to be cheap. Placebo are the dummy pills. But you'll hear people on placebo lost this amount of weight. Well, then let me buy the placebo, right? Okay. I'll even call it placebo if I could just lose a few more pounds without taking the medication. The findings have not yet been published in a peer-reviewed journal, but it is going to be presented in September at the annual meeting of the European Association for the Study of Diabetes. Based on these results, Eli Lilly says it plans to file for approval of orforglipron from the U.S. FDA to treat obesity by the end of the year. If approved, we will be able to have access to these pills by next year. Now, will we run into the same problems? Their study looked at a year and a half, which a lot of these studies are doing, where they're looking at a year and a half. Losing 12% of your body weight on average is fantastic. So if you are 200 pounds, your new weight might be 180. That's wonderful. That's fantastic. But that's not bikini weight. Except for those of us who don't care and will just wear a bikini no matter what. And I keep seeing this in the studies. They talk about you lost 12% or 10% of your body weight. Well, 12%. Okay, if it's 12%, then you would be losing 24 pounds. So you would be 176 pounds, which is still huge. I mean, losing 12% of your body weight is huge. But that's might not be exactly what you're looking for. And one thing I've stressed with all of this is people aren't necessarily talking to a doctor about the medication. They're looking at influencers. They're talking to their neighbor. They're talking to their buddy. And they see somebody who, look at Kelly Clarkson. Now, I don't know if she took any medication, but she went from being overweight to looking really thin. So people look at that and go, okay, well, that's what the medicine is supposed to do. Look at Oprah. She looks great. And for some, the medicine might do that. But what I think is happening are individuals are losing 10% of their body weight. And then that's it. Or losing 12%. And then it doesn't budge. It could be because you're plateauing. It could be because your body's getting used to the medicine. But then they say, well, I'm not losing weight. And they don't keep at it. These medications are not supposed to be skinny pills. They do help curb your appetite, but to make you, your high school body, you're shooting for too much. You can get your high school body back in some cases, but we are talking, you need to be at the gym every day. We are talking strict calorie restriction and years and months of work. But people are looking at these pills and these shots as this is what's going to make me skinny. And I do see people who are skinny on it. But you need to talk to your medical provider about the studies and how honest the results are. Now, many people do hear these results and say, well, 10% of my body weight, that's fine. For me, that would mean I would get down to 120. I go, well, how much do you weigh? Oh, that's not important. Okay, you're acting like you weigh 136 pounds. Yeah, come on, man. You need to know your real weight. So these medications, right, if you lose the weight and you keep it off, you are going to improve your cholesterol levels, your triglyceride levels, your blood pressure, your heart, markers of inflammation, may even minimize dementia sleep apnea. It's amazing. But how long how can you take these medications for? With the pills, we're being told that they had to gradually increase their dose before reaching the maximum dose. So this wasn't just on a low dose. They had to do this because they had to slowly increase and augment the potency because of GI side effects. So they started out at 6 milligrams. Then after 4 weeks, they went to 12 milligrams. Then the maintenance dose was 36 milligrams. So these medicines max at some point. And I'm not saying they're bad. I love the idea that these companies are working on ways that could safely help reduce weight. But I think the American people or any consumer needs to be educated on what we're really looking at. I had a person call in for a patient called in for diet pills because they started to plateau on their Ozempic. And I go, you aren't really supposed to be taking diet pills plus your Ozempic. And they were not on Ozempic for diabetes. They were on Ozempic for weight. But they were afraid that they were going to go off the Ozempic due to cost and it not working anymore. And then they gained their weight back. So we need to be practical about this. We need to be transparent about it. They're great medications. But how long can people take them for? 1-877-DOC-DALI.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. You know, we've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So hopefully many of us got our good dose of vitamin D. We were out in the sun. We vacationed a lot. But what is always striking to me is we think of summer as swimming and beaches and sunscreen. And then school comes and we think of back to school, backpacks and pencils and all that, but we still have the sun. And for those of us that live in areas where these kids are back to school, and it's about, 100 degrees where I am right now, we need to still think about protecting against the sun. So joining us today is renowned dermatologist Dr. Asha Patel Shah. here to explain why everyday use of sunscreen is still just as important during the school year as during the summer, even when it's not hot. Dr. Shaw is a fellow with the American Academy of Dermatology and adjunct assistant professor of dermatology at Emory University and head of medical affairs in North America for skin health and beauty at Kenvue. Dr. Shaw, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Wow. So I love that you're bringing this up because many parents are putting away the sunscreen for next summer, and no. Sunscreen is still important.
Absolutely. So, as you alluded, most people think of park, but honestly, the UV rays just don't take a vacation, and our children are spending many, many hours outside during the entire school year. And we also know that even one blistering sunburn in childhood more than doubles the lifetime risk of melanoma. So that's why our team at Kenvue, the makers of Neutrogena, are spreading the word. For me, bottom line, daily sun protection remains critical, just like brushing our teeth. It's a small step, but makes a big impact.
Absolutely. And I love Neutrogena. Many of their products I've recommended to also help prevent acne. And so they're a huge help, especially for our kids and adolescent populations. Our back to school shopping list always seems to include pencils and pens and crayons and rulers and protractors. Sunscreen needs to be on that shopping list, shouldn't it?
Totally agree with you. So, as our children return back to school, the need for everyday sun protection is just as important as it was during the summer months. And as you may know, actually many states now have passed laws allowing students to use sunscreen and sun protective clothing at school without a physician's note or prescription to help protect them from the dangers of cumulative UV exposure.
And so I think one apprehension parents have is how does their child bring it to school and then get access to apply? Do you recommend as a physician as well, maybe notes, provided by the parent, to the teacher saying, look, we would like this reapplied before they go out for recess or PE?
Yes, and so I'm really excited that a lot of states now are getting on board so that the children can actually carry sunscreen without the obstacle of needing a note. But in some states, it's still needed. And so I would recommend looking up your state and figuring out whether you can just place a travel-size sunscreen or a stick applicator in your student's backpack just for, convenient reapplication, or do you need that additional note to leave at the nurse's office so that they're allowed to do that?
A big question I get from parents is, are children still getting, and I answer yes, but they're concerned that it's blocking vitamin D and the benefits of sun while we want to protect against melanoma. These kids are still getting good sources of vitamin D, correct?
Absolutely. So it's all about risk versus benefit. And, application of appropriate sunscreen does not block vitamin D production. And so we get vitamin D through various sources, not just the sun, but also a good healthy diet. And so most kids are pretty sufficient with vitamin D. But again, sunscreen does not block vitamin D protection. You can have it both. You should be protecting your skin. You should be getting vitamin D, and you should be enjoying the outdoors, frankly, as well.
We're speaking to Dr. Shaw, fellow with the American Academy of Dermatology, adjunct assistant professor of dermatology at Emory University and head of medical affairs in North America for skin health and beauty at Kenvue. What sunscreens do you recommend for parents to use now that these kids are going back to school?
Yeah, so to be perfectly honest with you, the best sunscreen is the one that you and your family will consistently use every day, because really to unlock the power of sunscreen, you have to be able to use it and you have to want to use it. And so for children, I really do like the Beach Defense Kids line and the Sheer Zinc Kids mineral options, because it makes protection very convenient and very gentle, not just for daily use, but also for reapplication. And those lines also have a variety of vehicle options like sprays and sticks and lotions to just give that diversity of choice so you actually use the product.
Great. Any other advice you have for parents?
Yes, I always say, please start early, stay consistent, And also just lead by example because your children are watching, and skin health is a long game. We also know that sun safety habits and sun education within childhood is very important because not only will they continue those practices throughout life, but they will also protect themselves against that cumulative sun damage that may turn into skin cancer one day.
So true. Dr. Shaw, where can my listeners go for more information?
Yes, so for helpful sun safety tips, please visit kenview.com/sun.
Wonderful. Well, can't wait to have you back. We appreciate everything you and Kenview do, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. I was at the grocery store the other day, and I saw a mom kind of like skip out of the car, smiling. I wanted to go up to her and say, "You just dropped your kids off at school, huh?" I got to tell you, it's a happy, happy time. I love my kids. Listen, I love them. But for me, I just always loved back to school. When I see a back to school supply aisle in a grocery store, in a Target or Walmart, and back to school supplies, I just get excited. Maybe it's because of the colors. Maybe it's because everything is so crisp and new. I just get excited by that because I've always loved school. I was a real dork as a kid. I love school. But it's interesting. I grew up in Las Vegas. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. I was born in LA. They didn't at the time really talk about skin protection. We knew there was sunscreens and sunblocks, but I was a kid of the 80s. And I wasn't very tan. I have very, very fair skin. And so I was of the age and the generation where you laid outside and you got as much sun as possible. And so I'm just shuddering with all the skin damage I got. Another thing that, I was a blonde kid, and then the blonde hair changes to dark. And then I had darker hair. And so in the 80s, we had something called Sun-In, where it had, I think, or we would use lemon juice to spray on our hair to make our hair more blonde. Well, my hair wasn't blonde. It became orange. But that's what I did to lighten my hair. It was a product called Sun-In. And when I look at what I did to myself in terms of, putting myself at so much sun risk just to get a temporary tan, I'm nervous. We flew to Florida to see some family, and my sunscreen wasn't applied properly, and I ended up having a black circle from a sunburn. I burned that bad where it was black right in the lower part of my chest. And I watch that area all the time because I wonder if I'll later get skin cancer because of that damage. So we can't overestimate the power of sunscreen and what that needs to do to protect our skin. However, we do want to play a fine line between our kids sitting in the house, playing video games, not getting out and getting some fresh air and sun, and being able to produce vitamin D with our sun's help versus skin cancer risk. So make sure you talk to your medical provider and make sure you protect your kid's skin. 1-877-DOC-DALI.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.